This emergency. Got a call for 4 people dead. Possibly 4 victims have been shot.
In the living room, police and paramedics found 4 young adults dead from gunshot wounds. They'd been dead for several hours.
Well, they first walked in to your immediate left and was a female victim laying on her stomach. You had a male victim and a female victim on a sofa. Then behind them, between the sofa and the far wall, was a 4th male victim.
It literally looks like a slaughterhouse. You have blood on the walls, bullet strikes near the beams. You have shell casings on the ground. All the furniture is soaked in blood.
The victims were 18-year-old Tiffany Rowell, who lived in the home, her boyfriend, Marcus Priscilla, 21-year-old Adelbert Sanchez, and 18-year-old Rachel Colarutis. It looked as if the victims were watching TV and were caught off guard by the attack.
They were leaned back in a couch, feet up as if in a recliner, like anyone would if they were watching a show or relaxing. They did not seem to be alarmed at all.
These people had no idea they were about to be shot.
It appeared as if Rachel was killed while trying to call for help.
She just dialed the 9 and the 1 key. The assailant came back to her and beat her to death.
Rachel was shot 6 times and pistol whipped. Shell casings found at the scene indicated 2 guns were used. One was a 9mm, the other a .38 caliber.
We were looking for at least 2 perpetrators. You don't see people going in carrying a 9mm in one hand and a .38 in the other.
And there was no forced entry.
We allow scenes to talk to us. It confirms to us as detectives that they know their assailants.
Rachel's father heard the news on television.
I pulled up on the scene, saw my wife standing out there and a lot of people in the street and crime tape around the house. I tried to run into the house. I was stopped by a police officer.
White line. Sir, step behind that white line and go to jail right now. All right? Please. Please, man. I know. I know. Please.
I just could not even imagine in my mind who would do that to her and why. Rachel had no enemies.
Right now, we're all left in the dark. All I know is that a phantom came in and took my sister away.
The question nagging investigators was motive. Who wanted these 4 young people dead, and why?
Yeah, what you have to do is you have to deal with what happened. You also have to arrange this giant family event called a funeral. The other thing on my mind was finding out who did this and cooperating and setting up an environment where the police were as enabled as they could be to do their job.
The police realized that the 2 boys killed in the attack had been involved in drugs, which may have been part of the motive.
Marcus was leading a high-risk lifestyle of dealing drugs and ultimately bringing his cousin Adelbert to help him with that. It exposed Rachel and Tiffany to the effects of that.
At the crime scene, investigators discovered that there were 21 shots fired. 17 hit their intended targets.
It appeared to be right off the bat a calculated shooting with very few mistakes and very, very few misses.
There were no murder weapons recovered at the scene, no firearms at the scene.
3 of the victims died from gunshot wounds. Although Rachel Colarutis had been shot 6 times, the cause of her death was blunt force trauma to her head. Police also learned that 18-year-old Tiffany Rowell lived in the home alone after her father remarried and moved in with his new wife.